Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Oculi Rebus. This is your host, the man, the myth, the unlegendary one himself, Mike Ellis, with that MEE Mike Ellis experience. This episode is written and produced by John Solis and is a Yuckfo production. Well, damn. We're overprepared, underprepared, and everything in between on this episode right here. This is gonna be a rough one to get through, but it's rough because it's. I need you to listen to the whole episode before you judge me. There's gonna be some terms that might not be accepted that are gonna be mentioned. Just deal with it. I mean, we use all kinds of language on here to begin with, so nothing new, right? But with that being said, I'm not going to tell you guys what the name of the episode is. You guys are going to kind of see it obviously in the title, but it's behind some asterisks. You got to stay tuned. Hopefully you can put it together if I forget to tell you guys. But let's get this on the road. How about that? So for you guys that have never heard of a menstrual, not like menstrual cycle like women go through, I wouldn't touch that episode. I would touch abortion before I would touch a menstrual cycle. Let me tell you that. Well, I'd touch an abortion episode, not touch an abortion. That'd suck. But menstrual movies or shows have been around since, I think I saw the earliest was like the 1840s, 1850s, something like that. Now, for you guys, it might not know what these are. They are movies or shows. It used to be kind of like there was little middle acts in between some shows too that incorporated these. There's a fancy French word for where it originated, but nonetheless, a minstrel movie or show is typically a movie or show that incorporates the usage of blackface. And I'm not talking about Iron Man blackface, right, from Tropic Thunder, which, by the way, so glad that's one of the things that is comedically understood for the movie. So it was funny because I know they picked apart the mental handicap character Simple Jack more so than they did the blackface in that movie, which I thought was kind of interesting. But anyways, so these are things that incorporated blackface going way, way back before the days of our great grandpappys. So, like, for us to, like, sit here and be like, oh, we're going to atone for it, like, slavery and all these other things is out of the fucking picture. But they go back to the 1850s, like I said, including in 1935 when Shirley Temple herself identified as African American or black. All right, so if I fuck up and say black African American, just deal with it, okay? There's going to be far worse language in this episode, I promise. So she identified as African American or black. So we can't be mad because we live in a society where you can identify as whatever you want. Just ask Elizabeth Warren. Damn, hold on. Where's the laughter for that one? I gotta hit that joke again. Just ask Elizabeth Warren. That was quiet. There we go. Honestly, for that, I deserve the crickets. But nonetheless, okay. So, yeah, I know it's a joke that's in poor taste, and it didn't age well, did it? So even Shirley Temple, at the height of her career, used blackface. Now, a lot of times they use blackface in a serious note with trying to portray a character because they didn't want, the silver age of Hollywood did not want African Americans in movies. And so they did this to be able to bypass having them in the movies, which is fucked up, but whatever, right? So it caught the innocence of America in Shirley Temple. I mean, come on. She's one of the few people, her and Arnold Palmer, there's very few virgin drinks out there that are named after people. Virgin, it's the innocence of America, right? So, like, that's what it is, really. And so we can't sit here and hold too much against the fact that we did this so long ago, right? I think that's kind of it sucks. You just can't say sorry enough for the depictions and how it was done, but it was done. Now, with that being said, the first movie to be played in the White House. It's funny because we're talking. Yeah, you get it, right, guys? You get it, right? So the first movie played in the White House was The Birth of a Nation, and this movie was from 1915, which was after the Civil War. Yeah, 1915. The Civil War, I think, was in the 1300s. No, it really wasn't. It was about 70 years ago, 70 years prior, right? Woodrow Wilson was the president. I went to that elementary school. I don't think, okay, the dude was a racist. He was a devout racist. There's no getting around Woodrow Wilson. I don't think they should change the school's name. I just think he was a shitty person. I also think he was a shitty president. His policies and everything were kind of trash. But nonetheless, Woodrow Wilson had the movie Birth of a Nation from 1915, first movie ever played in the White House. It featured a character known as, in the credits, the renegade Negro. They couldn't even give a real name. They just had to be so demeaning with the idea that they just had to say, this is the renegade Negro. Now, I've never seen the movie, and I'm not above or beneath seeing it. I know that sounds condescending, but I'm just not. It's just not something that I care to see, right? But there's been hundreds of movies, probably thousands of movies. No, maybe, several hundred movies. I'll go that way. But you look at Abraham Lincoln signing the proclamation, the 16th president, and Woodrow Wilson was like the 30th or something like that, 34th. I don't know. Or no. Whoa, way too far on that one, right? But nonetheless, so this is in the 1915 time frame, right? And Woodrow Wilson, who was after the president said, free the slaves. And we had to watch a movie in the White House called The Birth of a Nation, which featured the renegade Negro. There's few times in modern time where you don't put a character's real name or you don't associate an actor with a part. One of them that's kind of really interesting is not the Punisher, guy with the Predator. I was close. So in the very first Predator movie, Jean-Claude Van Damme was asked to actually portray the character, the Predator. He turned down the movie because in the movie it would have just said the Predator at the end of the credits. It would have not given credit to Jean-Claude Van Damme for being the Predator. So I think that's interesting. To me, that makes sense. There's a beautiful artistic sway, if you will. But over here on Birth of a Nation, it's the renegade Negro. And so this has happened countless upon countless of times, right? So in 1927, a whole 12 years removed, right? The Jazz Singer is a movie that is considered with ending the silent film era. What they did, now this was a production back then. This was like an Avatar type production, and hear me out. Here's why. Back then, the cameras were so noisy and everything to be able to record sound. So sound had to be recorded separately. So what you had in this movie, The Jazz Singer, people had to lip sync and stuff like that, and then they had to turn around and record the songs, record the audio, and then it had to all be queued up and synchronized. That's pretty fucking cool. But Al Johnson, I think was his name, wore blackface. Now, here's one where it makes sense but doesn't make sense. The reason it makes sense is because jazz is considered to be a music of African Americans, or back in the day, it was Negro music, right? So the first man of jazz, Buddy Bolin, who was black, goes all the way back to 1890. Now, I know he knew back then, why blackface was the thing. Now I'm speaking hyperbole, of course, but he knew back then that they were never going to let a black man portray a jazz person in white America, if you will, 'cause that's what it was at the time, by an African American, by a black man, by a Negro. But it pains my soul because something like jazz is innate with the African American heritage that this country has. It's a beautiful music. And now here's the worst part about it. The Jazz Singer was made again in the 80s, and I think it was like Neil Diamond did blackface in it. I'm glad he survived that. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that because he might not survive it now that I'm mentioning it. But the first man of jazz, African American, Buddy Bolin, 1890 is the time frame that jazz is set to have originated. And it was in 1927 that the Jazz Singer came out, and we still had blackface. That's how disconnected America was at the time. And, you know, people talk about the 70s, the 60s and 70s when it came to the civil rights movement. That's a whole nother episode, guys. But what I'm talking about here is the disenfranchisement of an entire group of Americans due to being realistically inferior. They didn't think they could play the parts. They didn't think they could hold these characters. I think something like, when I remember correctly, I looked at this a while back, something like 3,000 Oscars have been given, and like 40 black people have won them. With that being said, the first one won was like within a decade of the Oscars. So that's kind of good, right? But here's something that's even worse that I think is really neglected. There's been a lot of things that have been done throughout modern time to make it okay. And I'm not talking about make what I just said okay. I'm talking about making something else okay. We started having this belief we had this belief of the inferior artist and stuff like that, right? Although, you know, African Americans sold phenomenal when it came to Motown. They owned it. And I think that's great. I love Motown music. But then we had The Wiz. Now, The Wiz was produced to speak to and speak of the African American culture. Here's my problem with The Wiz. If you've never seen it, it's a ripoff of The Wizard of Oz, which you of course could argue The Wizard of Oz is a ripoff of the book of The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, sure, whatever, okay. But The Wiz is a ripoff of the Wizard of Oz. For the longest time, I thought it was called the Black Oz. Don't know why. Well, I know why. Because it pandered to the black people. Now, granted, it was a black cast, including the great late Michael Jackson, opinions aside. But it pandered. And what we did was we allowed this movie, The Wizard of Oz, to be blackwashed. And I think that is an absolute fucking disgrace. But here in a few minutes, we're going to actually look at what I think is not a bigger disgrace, because they're not comparable, but it is in a way. So real quick, we're going to take a quick break and talk about some stuff that will lead me to my information that I have that's going to lead to the arrest and the prosecution of the Clintons. And oh, by the way, if you saw the news today, everything is sponsored by Pfizer, so I'm going to go and stake claim to that. Pfizer, you owe me some money for mentioning you guys. All right, first... I'm sorry. I shouldn't be laughing before I even play the thing. That's but here's a good one. All right. So Jen sake. I need some sake. Not her, not the redheaded stepchild sake. But let's listen to what some modern American Marxism sounds like. Cut and paste and go.
So the Port of Long Beach yesterday saw this new record broken. 100 vessels at anchor waiting to enter. Normally, pre-COVID, they're seeing 17 ships, give or take, at anchor. Is the president satisfied today on where things stand?
The president is satisfied that progress continues to be made. And one of the reasons that there has been so much traffic in a lot of these ports is because there are more goods that are being ordered by people across the country. People have more money, expendable resources. Their wages are up. More people are working than they were a year ago. And port to port, it's different. But statistically, some of these ports have 20%, 30% increased volume as a result of that.
Okay. We're just going to completely ignore the fact that a few weeks ago, the jobs report came out and it was worse. I also saw, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but wages actually went down for the first time in like 3 years. Let's think about how corrupt that answer is. Now, I'm not saying, now I know I made the Marxist joke, right? I'm not seeing her saying that she is like some kind of devout Marxist or Biden's a Marxist. I don't think Biden's smart enough to understand what Marxism is at this fucking point, at this juncture, right? But here's the thing. A Marxist government is going to tell the people that everything's okay because of numbers they can't prove. They're going to tell them that the issues that exist are because they're so successful. That's how this all works, ladies and gentlemen. That's the great Oz behind the curtain here. I almost said the carpet. That is how stupid they think we are. There was an article, I wish I would put in the show notes, but it just popped in my head again. There was an article by some ex-journalist turned op-ed person, right, editorial kind of thing, talking about how the problem in America isn't that there's short supply of things. It's just we're too fucking needy. We need to lower our expectations. No, we don't need to lower our expectations. Companies are having issues right now. Companies are fucking struggling. These ports are fucking struggling. There's shortage of chips. There's shortage of wood. There's shortage of metal. We're getting close to the toilet paper shortage. I just heard there might possibly be a regular paper shortage. This is where we're at right now. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm not trying to tell you guys to go stock up on stuff. I'm hoping that this backlog and this issue gets fixed. But this isn't something you can just sign away that easy. This is something that needs a thorough evaluation, and we need to look at it. This is the president's problem. This is his fault. He needs to figure it out at this point. You see why I laughed? Because that one's upsetting. That was an angry laugh. It wasn't even a funny fucking laugh, right? So Uncle Dana White of the UFC recently said that Fight Island might be popping again. This is in response to the federal guidelines stating that international travel to America might not be allowed will not be allowed if you are not fully vaccinated. Dana White has not forced his fighters to get vaccinated, and he said he will not do so. And he also stated that he didn't state this. This is just my knowledge and understanding. This roster that they have in UFC right now I'm not going to say probably, it is the most international roster he's had since way back when in the 90s. And so if you sit there and you put this, for lack of better words, this embargo on talent, what's going to end up happening is he's going to have to leave. I'm not saying the company's going to leave or any of that stuff, but he's going to go back to Abu Dhabi. He's going to go back over there where he can operate his business to the best way that he sees possible. A lot of his championship caliber fighters and a lot of his champions are actually from other countries. His heavyweight champion is from Africa. He's got another champion from Africa. It's an international sport at this point. It's the Olympic of fighting, right? And so he's going to do what he has to do to protect his business. He's protecting his fighters by giving his fighters the opportunity to make that choice instead of being dictated by the government. You will do this, you will do that, which I totally respect. And then we have Andrew Yellen, U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen is alleging that in the now 1.9 trillion, don't believe the fucking numbers, guys. Read the bills. If I got another episode on the new bill, I will. There's so much crap in there. It's not about the money. It's about them passing all these other things. Just got to do your research, everybody. But U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen is stating that we are no longer, and by say we, I mean them, the IRS will no longer go after people that have $600 moving. It's going to be $10,000. Fuck off. You shouldn't be monitoring the activity of my bank account unless there is criminal activity suspected. That is it. This is not a country that polices the people that are being good. You don't police the good civilians. That's not how it works. That once you start doing that, it's a police state. And the fact that they want to hire more and more and more IRS employees to be able to do this is a crock of shit. They're not going to catch a drug dealer. They're not going to catch any of that. Like, this is about control. End of story. You agree, hit me up. If you disagree, also hit me up. And so next we have Bill de Blasio. Cut and paste and go.
150,000 votes to Democrats.
Oh, wrong one. That was from a couple weeks ago. Once again, Bill de Blasio, cut and paste and go.
Our health commissioner issuing an order requiring all city workers to be vaccinated. This will apply to all the agencies that are not covered yet, and we want to move quickly. Obviously, we've given people a lot of time, first in the voluntary phase, then in the vaccinate or test phase. It's time to keep moving. So for the vast majority of the workforce not yet vaccinated, the deadline is 5 p.m. on Friday, October 29th. There is a small group of uniformed correction officers who will have a different deadline, and in that case, it will be for December 1st, and that's
I cut him off there, and apparently something's going on at Rikers Island. All right, so here's my thing with it. I'm not here to tell anybody to get the vaccine or not to get the vaccine. Did a whole episode on that. It's your choice. I'm not a fucking doctor. But what I'm here to tell you is I don't think it's the government's job or the government's position to be so involved in our day-to-day health. The numbers you have right now, if you actually look at them, we're doing pretty good. Now, yes, there's people who get sick with the vaccine. There's also people who get sick without it. But you had an entire police force, an entire fire department, and you had an entire healthcare worker force, that sounds stupid, health worker force that went a whole 18 months without a vaccine. Did some people get sick? Did some people die? Yes, they did. But they went in day out, risking their lives. Your front of the line, first line healthcare workers shouldn't be facing a life or death situation as often as they had been due to COVID, due to the pandemic. But they did. They've scrubbed up and they went in there every day and they did their fucking job. Some of them stayed away from their families because they didn't know the virus. They didn't know what it was going to do to them or to their families. Now we have a lot more information, and then the number is still 1%. That hasn't changed. And so to sit here and say that if you're a healthcare worker and you don't want to get the vaccine, fuck off. We're going to put you on non-paid leave or we're going to fire you. That's a load of shit. Same thing for the men and women who put on the firefighting uniform or the famed FDNY, NYPD. Like, these are guys that go out there in a crime, for lack of, like, honestly, New York's pretty crime-ridden in some areas. They go out there every day. They have a higher probability of being shot or harassed or assaulted or anything else while putting on that uniform than they do of dying of COVID. For you to sit here and say that this is a healthcare issue, for you to sit here and say that it's about protecting the people around them, when you fire them, when you send them home, you're not protecting them anymore. You don't know if they're going to go to substance abuse. You don't know if there's going to be other family issues. You don't know what that's going to turn into. Don't tell me you care about people's life while you turn a blind eye to their fucking individual lives. Blows my mind that that's a thing. Blows my mind. Well, let's circle back to what we're talking. Actually, we're not really circling back to what we're talking about. We're in the same subject, but we're going to go somewhere else. So with that being said, I can go on, but it's time to move on. So I decided to go ahead and hit that bumper music again. Now we're getting into the second half of the show, right? Which is usually where I put my meats and potatoes together and where I tell you guys what we're actually really talking about if it's not so overt in the first part of the episode. So that's why I wanted to put the music on for you guys. This episode is actually titled Gay Washing. It is entitled Gay Washing. There, I said it, everybody. Now let's talk about it. Okay. We just talked about, prior to the little news insert, we talked about how blackface was a thing. And we did it as a derogatory way. And I say we, not you and I, of course, but we as a whole people. We did it for a derogatory reason. And then we had the whiz because, why, I don't fucking know. But, gay washing. I've seen it going on for the past couple years. And I've had many talks about it. Now, here's the thing. I think that, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. I had the burps there from all that terrible food that I've been eating. Here's the thing. Let me say something to say something, okay? So years ago, I used to talk with a lot of my gay friends, and they used to always argue gay marriage, and everything, right? Now, here's the thing. Did I want them to be able to get married? Sure, whatever. I don't care. Do whatever you want with your love life. But I thought they fought it the wrong way. To me, and to most Americans, marriage is a union, a matrimony that's kind of put together in this church, you know, a house of worship. And most churches at the time, and most still don't really agree with homosexuality and gay marriage. But whatever. But marriage really isn't a federal thing. Hear me out. Civil union is. Should have been arguing for civil unions. Those are things that are actually honored by our federal government. And so with it being honored by the federal government, I think that you had a better opportunity to make a real argument for real change that I think would have happened quicker. And it would have been less aggressive and less frightening to some people. So what does that have to do with gay washing and the theory that I'm trying to explain? I just think that this different perspective, right? Perspective is a hell of a drug. I think this different perspective needs to be said and it needs to be heard. And I think that by the time it's said and done, some of you guys are going to give me a nice big round of applause, or it's just going to be a time will tell. So here's the thing, okay? DC Comics recently announced the whole Superman's son's going to be gay. We'll touch that in a minute, okay? Let's go back to talk about Robin from Batman. He came out gay at some point. Let's go talk about Judge Dredd. He kind of came out gay at some point, right? Now, Judge Dredd's not really part of DC Comics, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's Iron Horse. I could be wrong. Anyways, I don't remember. I'm not that fluent on it. But here's the thing. When was Judge Dredd gay? 2013 or something like that? 17? I don't know. When was Robin gay? When was Superman's son gay? Everyone's going to be like, oh, I see what you're doing there. But Superman's son's a new character. He is, but he's not. Superman's already had sons, 2 sons before. Just because you change the name doesn't mean you change the product. All right? So, what I'm trying to get at right now is everyone's sitting here. Oh, the colorist for Spider-Man, or excuse me, for yeah, Spider-Man's probably going to come out gay too. Actually, no, they even mentioned that. They said that one of the fucking Spider-Mans in the multiverse is gay or something now. Fucking Spider-Man. I thought we cleared that up in the third episode, or the third sequel way back when he was all emo. I thought that was the gay Spider-Man, but I guess I'm wrong. But... Here's where my big problem is. I don't care what anybody's sexual preference is as long as it's not towards minors, not towards kids. I really don't care. You be bisexual, whatever. I don't care. But here's my problem. I think that the community, the LGBTQ, not going to put the plus up there because that's where you start getting into some real mental disorders. The LGBTQ community, though, they're missing out on a golden opportunity. People over here are championing these little small wins, right? When the chicks, I think it was the chicks in Star Wars had their little kiss, championed that. Anytime the little whole JoJo chick, the little tween, whatever it is, the Nickelodeon one, I think, she came out as like pansexual or something. Now she's an individual, she can do that, but they championed it. They keep championing all these things, but why? She's not the first pansexual or whatever the fuck it is. Judge Dredd wasn't the first gay cop, gay judge, whatever. Robin wasn't the first gay sidekick. Superman's son wasn't the first gay son. None of it matters. But it could have. It could have mattered. It absolutely could have. Here's my problem, and this goes back to the Wiz. We are mistreating entire groups of people. We're selling them short. We're literally gay-washing characters right now. We're gay-washing movies. We're gay-washing stories. We're gay-washing folklore. We're doing all that just to be groundbreaking, just to be original, just to be able to put them out there. I say, hey, we fucking care about you guys. We care about you guys. And what I hear is a lot of this. What I should hear is a lot of this. Or some of this with that. But that's how divisive these things have become nowadays. All it takes is to get one thing, right? One thing that's well known, one thing that's well documented, and have somebody come out there and just change a little bit of the tweet, or tweak it just a little bit, change a little bit of the inner workings of the cogs, and just come out and say, hey, you know what? The fucking Hobbit was really gay. I think Kevin Smith was right on that, though, in the movies. So who knows? Hey, the Terminator's gay. Groundbreaking. And once again, we're going to get that all over the fucking place. Stop letting people do that. This is not the modern blackface, but this is the modern blackface. What we're doing is we're subjugating what could be some great stories that are written, some great superheroes. Now, is there a first that's coming out? Yeah, there is. I know there is. I know that. Champion that shit. Don't champion the cut and paste. Because that's all it is. You cut and paste. But I guess that's fine, because we have a president right now who has repeatedly used other people's work as his own in college. And he's championed as president. That's what we're doing right now. We are taking other people's work. Somebody's saying, oh, well, they like dudes now. They play with penises. And we champion that as groundbreaking, as creative. It's fucking not. And I know people share this with me. And I also know that people are afraid to admit it. But you gotta fucking admit it, everybody. We could have, like I said, phenomenal stories, phenomenal characters whose sexuality is different from that of what is considered heterosexual. But with that being said, I also don't think it needs to be overtly pushed. In a good comic book movie, you might see a kiss or they allude to a sex scene. If you want to do that with two dudes or two girls, go right ahead. But it doesn't need to be overt. It doesn't need to be thrown in our face. Sitting here and changing Spider-Man, Robin, Judge Dredd, Superman, changing all these characters because you can't fucking come up with your own, diminishes the value that people in the community actually have. Like, think about it. It's not a complex thought. All I'm asking is for original creative things. Now, granted, I know we're in a day and age where sequels and fucking reboots are a thing. I get it. But come on. You're telling me that we are so uncreative these days that we just have to gay wash everything? Just pull out the old magic marker, pull out the old paintbrush, and just put that rainbow on there and repackage it as something new. The sad part is you're buying it. You're throwing money at it. You're making it acceptable. You're making it acceptable. That's the same thing that made the jazz singer successful, even though they lied about the numbers. If you allow it and you throw money at it, it'll grow. Now, there's a whole nother argument about a straight person portraying a gay person or a gay person portraying a straight person. To me, I don't give a shit about that. Acting's acting, right? Oh, I'm acting straight or I'm acting gay. Good for you. Here's a fucking paycheck. Is your movie good? Is your story good? Are you good at acting? That's what this is really about to me. Give me a show. Give me something original. And if the character's gay, so fucking be it. But don't make it feel forced on me. Because then I don't care anymore. Like, what was that Disney show a couple years back with the bad guys? I forgot what it was called. They went 4 or 5 seasons in, and then finally they're like, oh, this chick's a fucking lesbian. I was like, no, I don't even care about the show anymore. Because you did that because your ratings weren't doing too good, probably. You did that because you knew it would gather some more people. You did that because you knew people were going to share it all over social media. You did that because you know it fucking sells. You gay washed it. Disney of all things. You don't need to gay wash anything. All you got to do is just make a movie. Hell, most Disney movies, you look at Disney Pixar movies, there's no real symbolism of sexualism in them. Now, yes, I know there's penises and all that stuff in them. But what I'm trying to say is, like, Wall-E's a robot and Eva was another robot. Yes, you assume that one's programmed male, one's programmed female. Sure, whatever. But it's a fucking robot. There's those car movies. There's these inanimate objects that they bring life to and they tell a story. And you're telling me that you couldn't fucking write a real gay character? In a company that I know that has a ton of gay workers, you couldn't fucking hire a gay worker, a homosexual, whatever makes them feel better. So, I know in this last bit, I've done a lot of pandering. But the writing's on the walls, guys. If we don't stand up for the creative nature of what we should be getting out of our product, and we just keep allowing it to be gay washed, the community is going to be disenfranchised. Gay people sit here and say you want equal rights and everything else under the sun. But yet you bow or curtsy anytime someone says, oh, look at this, it's gay. How condescending is that? How fucking condescending is that? What happened to take a stand, be proud? What is it? We're here, we're queer, whatever the fucking thing you guys used to say. Hey, come on, it's condescending at this point, and you're allowing it. It's not new. You're allowing it. You're allowing cut and paste work. You're allowing the gay washing, and then you complain that it's not enough. It's not enough because there's none of it. Well, there is some, of course, but come on, everyone. Well, in typical fashion. Oh, God, I keep fucking this up. I'm such an idiot. I keep forgetting to do my plugs, right? So we got the Instagram at Oculi_Rebus, Mike Ellis. We got the Twitter at Rebus. We got the Facebook, Mike Ellis, Oculi Rebus. There's the Facebook page, Oculi Rebus. There's the YouTube channel and the Rumble channel, both at Oculi Erebus. We're out there in the... Oh, shit, Facebook might be changing its name. Didn't even think about that. Look it up if you didn't see it. Which is funny because it kind of goes back to what I said. Facebook was plotting its own whistleblower. But that's a whole nother thing. Anyways, come on, everyone. Help a brother out, right? Like, share the podcast. I need you guys. Let me shake my hands real quick in my face. That was a hard episode. And I know majority of it, we had a little bit of facts at the beginning, and it was all the opinion on the back end. But I do genuinely hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, and I feel like the last episode gave me the opportunity to be able to allude into it and have fun with it. I really hope nobody was offended by the use of the word Negro, because I could drop the other word that starts with an F for the gays, but I'm not going to do that. Till next time, guys. Next week's episode, no idea where I'm going to be at yet on that. But it's always a pleasure. In typical fashion, I can go on and on, but it's time to move on. Mike Ellis, out.